Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Thanks for checking in this afternoon. Hola, Joe. Hey, Lucky, and Bug Dude was up there somewhere. There he is. Um, wow. What an interesting weekend we all had as we watched 20 years of our effort just come crumbling down. One general put it best, and he said, you can put all sorts of equipment. Hey, Monique, all sorts of equipment on folks, but if they're afraid deep down inside, they don't have the heart to stand up to these guys, and it's going to collapse. So, yeah, that was kind of scary. So, all right, so definitely, I guess my audio is good. So, thank you for that, Lucky. So I guess biggest question ever, floating question, 25th Amendment on potato. Yes, I heard about that. That would be interesting because the argument could be made that, well, it's been 20 years, right? But did you guys see that speech? I should have put it up here. That was that was kind of iffy. He basically said we need to go. Yeah, it was Rick Scott, wasn't it? Hey Hutch, what's going on? Uh, so I guess the big question is what's going to happen now, right? Because obviously we've got, let me show you uh, this fun. We've got, oh, hey now, oh, technical difficulties. This, as the Taliban controls Afghanistan, the idea you can win is reverberating around terror cells. So now Al-Shabaab in Somalia, which, Northern Africa, Somalia, Djibouti, those countries there on the other side of the Gulf are, you push the nincompoop angle. Yeah, they might have validity. This was really bad. Even if he planned to draw down, had he at any point said, but we're going to leave special forces team there and we're going to leave a fast response attack helicopters there or something, that would have kind of, because nobody wants Apaches coming out after him in the middle of the night. But hey, Jennifer, I'm glad you could pop in. Happy birthday. Woo. Hey, Jennifer's birthday tonight. Everyone say happy birthday. Um, but yeah, as the Taliban controls now, Al-Shabaab is saying maybe we need to consolidate our hold on Somalia, which would cause problems for Djibouti and, of course, Nigeria and North Africa. So uh, this set a really bad precedent. This wasn't an organized army. The North Vietnamese, even though they were irregular troops back in the day, everyone knew China and Russia were backing them. And they had uniforms. I mean, these guys had structure and leadership. This is a conglomeration of warlords and militias that just basically overran the country. And unfortunately, now we've got all our equipment. Sadly, hey D9, how you doing? Hey Sparky, hey Monique. Now we've got all this equipment. They already had a bunch of Russian equipment from the 80s and 90s, and bam, now we've got this. And another concern is what's going to happen to all the women in that country who for the last 20 years have been getting educated and being part of the society, and it just comes to a screeching halt. Now, interesting to note that the Taliban has actually made formal speeches. They actually have designated, yeah, that's okay, my part of the world. Joe, that's just funny. But yeah, they're trying to actually portray a sense of legitimacy. They've actually asked countries to please return their ambassadors once they consolidate power because they want to start diplomatic relations. They want to have actual investment from other countries. I don't know what company would want to do that, but yeah, that's kind of a sight. Let's see this screen here. This is interesting. Taliban asked the world to trust them in lengthy press conference on women's rights. Fears of revenge as vice president stakes leadership claim. So now somebody from the central government, because the president bailed, um, they're promising no revenge attacks publicly. But on the flip side, there are reports from reporters in the street stating that they're hearing from the Afghan civilians that the Taliban are sending guys in the middle of the night knocking on doors saying, "Hey, do you know where Joe Schmo is? Because he translated for the Americans, and we want to talk to him." And then when they find them, they don't kill them apparently, but they beat the crap out of them, which is just a step away. So this has been a really embarrassing moment. You think about this. This is they basically just clobbered an army that we spent 20 years trying to train. Have friends and missionaries in Afghanistan. What up is it rain? Yeah. Unfortunately, so Jennifer, that's the big fear. I'm hearing reports they are going after Christians and running them off. There are reports that the people, so the US military and the British and NATO have secured the airport. They're a part of the airport, and they've put a perimeter around that. And the Taliban have created checkpoints around our perimeter. Thus far, the Taliban have not attacked the Americans or the Brits, vice versa. Hasn't happened either. But yeah, and the Terps will get killed, Lucky. That's absolutely right. The problem is they're stopping every vehicle trying to get into the airport. If you have a foreign diplomatic or foreign passport, they're waving you through. But if you're an Afghan, they're pulling them out and beating them or making them go away. We don't know what happens to them. We can only surmise they're getting killed or tortured somewhere. So what's concerning is this didn't happen in 24 hours. The Taliban starting to take back the country has been going on, truthfully, for over a month. They've been slowly, hey, Stuart, thanks for stopping in, man. Don't get in trouble at work, though. They've been systemically pushing their way into the middle of the country from the outskirts. So what can we, obviously none of us can help any of this, but what can we as people who try to be prepared and mindful learn about this? Early when the Cootie came out and everyone was freaking out and fighting over toilet paper, a lot of us had been watching the Cootie develop in China and then in Italy months before. Back in December, January, we were all kind of chatting about it, going, I don't know about that. That could turn bad. And we were kind of trying to prep for that as best as we could. What this has shown me personally, and this is my lesson out of this, is sometimes being prepared or being able to deal with a situation could be a matter of knowing a couple of weeks ahead. Just seeing something evolve 2-3 weeks ahead. And that's why, even though a lot of us, we look at stuff, the mayor of a city I lived in a couple of years ago was killed by an Afghanis. Well, yeah, but dude, so to that point, I heard on a radio show today that one of the generals who had left Afghanistan had, yeah, and Hutch, I mean, the Romans went there, the Huns went there, the British, the Russians, the Americans. Now apparently the Chinese want to give it a whirl. That part of the world has not changed. That culture has not changed. It's not going to change because, we go there with fancy helicopters and suits and declare that it changed. But one of the generals who had commanded the training operations for the Afghan army had actually indicated that by his estimate from his own, I guess, his own S2 shop, which would be the intel guys, they were putting together that roughly 20 to 27% of the Afghan standing army were actually embedded Taliban or ISIS or some other insurgent that were embedded in, and they were obeying the rules. And so they said that was part of the reason we were having all these friendly fire attacks or not so friendly fire attacks, was because of the embedded troops were taking opportunities to kill officers, as Bug Dude points out. So one person pointed out, well, if we bring 80,000 in last minute without proper vetting, by that 20% or, or 100,000 in. Yeah. Monique, it's weird to think about the history. That's more than conceivable. If we bring a mass of Afghans in without proper vetting, we could wind up with Taliban in the borders. On the flip side, we've left our friends there. Again, this goes back to what I was saying a few minutes ago. This didn't happen spontaneously. This has been a month or more in the making. As our troops pull back, we were hearing reports of they took this base, they took this little city, they took this little town. They were moving in. The White House, our leadership should have said, wow, this might go sideways. Let's start pulling people now. What we have now is a panic, and I'm sure everyone's seen this video. Let me see if the video will come up. Bear with me just a second. Yeah, here we go. And and some folks are saying this may be a doctored video. Well, not this part. What I get a kick out of is there's one guy kind of waving as he goes by. But yeah, there were dudes still. A few actually got run over on the runway because the pilot couldn't. Pilot can't see it. And for the record, look at the size of the tires. That's like a semi truck. So I don't know where these guys thought. I guess they were trying to get in the little hatches on the side. But this was not new. And now the Taliban, aside from having some of our drones, a bunch of our Black Hawks and other stuff, they are now, yay, truck clearance. They are now also in possession of substantial amounts of firearms, ammunition, body armor. We've left them MRAPs, Humvees. We basically equipped the Taliban after all that fighting and loss of life. So again, what can we? Yeah, they did. They were coming in as we were pulling out. When we left, what was the northern city? It wasn't Kandahar. Shoot, I can't remember. I just blanked out. When we left that one airbase that was north of the capital, and the Afghans were kind of wandering around, and then they did. They put 685, something like that, on an airplane. Bug Dude, what they need to do is wherever there are helicopters and tanks, anything of great value, we need to make it have an accident. So that, because keep in mind, they're going to keep what they need. But yeah, MRAPs, firearms, all sorts of goodies. We basically have equipped one of the largest armies of insurgents in the world by default because they took it over. And that's not to say that these guys won't find some goodie that they're like, well, we can't use this, but I bet the Russians will pay me for it. And they're going to start black market selling our crap to Russia and to China. So this is bad. I got a few guys in my circle that had been there. One went there a few times in uniform and then as a contractor. I have not been able to get a hold of him. He bought himself a fishing boat when he left, and I think him and his son are out in the middle of nowhere. Um, oh yeah, and Lucky's right. Yeah, Joe's right on too. I mean, we have enough problems here. We can't figure out how we're going to do an infrastructure bill or deal with Rona or shutdowns or no shutdowns. But then we've done this, and this has been a fiasco. But what can we learn as people who are trying to be prepared? Because again, this wasn't spontaneous. This, a lot of us saw it in the news the last 72 hours. That's when the public saw it. All of us have been kind of chatting about this for a hot minute. We've been saying, Afghanistan looks like it's going to suck. I get the feeling a lot of the preparedness community on YouTube, we're about a month and a half ahead of the public, where something starts evolving and we start theorizing about it and looking at it, and then we go, oh, that looks like it's going to suck, and bam, it sucks. Well, yeah, the drones were left, but look at this video. Let me see if it'll play. Let me see if I can get it playing. Holy cow, that scared the crap out of me. It's spam risk. I don't want to talk to spam risk. This is the families trying to get out of the country now. Hold on, he got away on me here. So this is the British sector, right? The Brits are processing folks on their end as well. Yeah, correct. This is not an instantaneous thing. The fact that the president was gone this weekend, they knew. They're trying to process folks. This should have happened. Our interpreters, anyone, our allies, should have been vetted, background checked, and been on a plane 2 weeks ago. What should have been getting evacuated now was the very last of our embassy Marines, and whoever had to remain in country. This is a mess, right? This should not have happened that way, and yet it did. And yeah, and that's the other thing. We've got a backlog now of applications. The troops, and actually, to Lucky's points, the troops and the people we have over in that part of the world have been actually trying to start this process for a while. But on our side, on the domestic side, it was just being dragged through the dirt. It wasn't going anywhere. And lo and behold, here you go. It's a problem. But now, bigger picture, is it a problem for China? Right now, keep in mind, remember, Afghanistan and China share a border, and China. Oh yeah, absolutely, Lucky. They will be, and that 20% of Taliban embedded is what scares me, because if you bring 80, 100,000 in, and now we've got 20,000 Taliban sympathizers. In the airplane picture we all saw it, I couldn't find a good one that wasn't fuzzy with all the people in the transport. That plane had men and women and children all mixed together. And you look at that airport video I just played when the dude fell off the airplane, that was all military age men. And when I was watching that the other day, my wife said, where are the women? Where are the families? Those guys are just going to jump on a plane and leave. And apparently none of them left. They fell off. But something to think about. And then I saw this one, and I got this actually from a State Department release as part of a kind of a conglomeration. But yeah, is this going to be a problem for China? More than 400 separatists in China's northwest Xinjiang region have been trained in light and heavy weapons and explosive devices in Taliban training camps. Now, yeah, that's right, men only. No women, no kids. Now, in the airplane, there were. And in the video with the Brits, there were. So obviously, they're trying to get families out. I would be more apt to trust an interpreter who came with a spouse and children, and I'm like, okay, this is a family guy or family woman trying to get out. But a pile of people, just dudes, I don't know about that. I think we're inviting a problem. I don't know. I don't know enough about this, but China has been horrendous to the Muslim minority in the western part of their country, and now the Taliban. Oh, I could bug dude. Very good point. Yeah. Uh, Southern border is a whole nother. We could make a video. Actually, lucky we need to do like the Texas edition of the border conversation and just get all of the Texas people on one chat because I think that would. Yeah, the bug dude's got a very good point. We're stopping. We're having Hondurans turn over people. They'll be like turning themselves over to Border Patrol and going, he's not from Honduras. I don't know who that guy is, but he's not from here. And they're finding Iranians, Chinese, Indian, Pakistanis coming through the southern border, specifically between Brownsville. No, I'm sorry, not Brownsville, McAllen and Laredo. There's a couple of towns, Roma and La Jolla, and through there, and I mean, they can't stop the damn drugs and cocaine, but yeah, there's whole other issues going on here. Um, but China could have a problem because think about all those weapons we just left. To be fair, we left our shit halfway across the world. It's right next door to China. These longstanding concerns are now at the forefront for China as it adapts to the reality of Taliban rule. So Taliban does not like China. They've got some old dislike for one another, despite China's overtures to reach out to them. So, yes, yeah, that's correct, Lucky. Actually, in Old Town McAllen, where the shopping center used to be, they had a. Well, see, Monique, that's what Russia thought is. Oh, we'll just go in and beat up the Taliban and the Mujahideen, and then it became a train wreck for them. And we spent 20 years and a pile of money, and it really didn't work out for us either. Um, China, though, does not have, well, to be fair, the Russians didn't have very many limits in what they were doing either. They were not playing by nice rules, and they still lost. We were playing by rules and didn't accomplish what we wanted to. Um, my thought is the Taliban will continue to train people in these camps, the same camps that spawned the 9/11 crews that came and did their shit. And Bud, dude, that's interesting. No, China gives zero fucks about human rights. That's absolutely true. But yeah, the 20th anniversary is next month, and the 20th anniversary is the month where the Taliban take the country back. I think this has just emboldened terrorists to come pee in our Cheerios, or to just start garbage, and we have literally given them an amazing pile of small arms, ammunition, RPGs, rocket launchers, you name it. That's going to go somewhere. It's not just going to stay in Afghanistan. It's going to go somewhere. It's going to get into the black market and make its way over. So, yeah, I'm not looking forward to how that pans out. That could suck greatly. So yeah, guys, that's no, peeing in Cheerios is the opposite of halal. That is bad stuff. So it's going to be, that's a good phrase, Monique, the Gong Show, because that's what we're seeing right now. So our current administration, when they went into place, I'm going to be nice, because I'm the guy speaking. The idea was competency, experience, leadership. Infrastructure is not passed. We got COVID all over the place. We've got border surges. We just lost Afghanistan in a very blazingly bad way. And I don't know. I didn't vote for the guy, but if you did, this isn't super impressive. And my concern is, somebody pointed out 25th Amendment earlier. So if he retires, they force him to step down. He steps down on his own, and the potato leaves. What do we have left? I'm not liking that option either. Um, there were certain people in. I feel like now when I see the real time Muppet Show, it is a real time Muppet Show. It's really rough. Um, so a few weeks ago, not even a week ago, I saw that the FDA and the CDC said no. If you got the Yeah, that'll be awful because we might get surprised if that happens. If Tater steps down and Camel takes over, she may pick a good number two, and we might be kind of pleasantly surprised. I don't think that's going to happen. I could just see, yeah, Manchurian. I could just see the damn shoot AOC winding up as VP or some horrendous nonsense like that, and that would become a shit show very quickly. Speaking of that, so the FDA had said, speaking of the other failures of the current leadership, um, no, if you got the pinch or you got medicated, it's a once a year thing, like a flu shot. You get it, you're done. Oh well, yeah, this is true, right? Because continuity of government would be the president, vice president, speaker of the House, president pro temp of the Senate, and then it goes into the cabinet, if I'm correct. So I may have it backwards. If someone can correct that, please do. Oh no, 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 not at all, Lucky. They will not. They will not. Um, but the administration decided that this would be to recommend COVID boosters after 8 months. Mind you, one manufacturer said we don't need that. It's once a year. It's like a flu shot. The other one is trying to push more pokes. So, like, you have these manufacturers all over the map. Some are saying, no, this is like an annual thing, like the flu shot. Just get it, move on, done. And the other guy's like, no, you keep getting pokes every 6 to 8 months. Apparently, Australia is authorizing it for children 8 to 12 formally. And there's been reports, and I can't confirm it, that kids are showing up to school and kids are then being brought to a poke center without the parents' consent or knowledge. I don't know if that's true. If I can validate that, or if one of you can, let me know. But yeah, you want to start something really bad. Redirect your somebody else's children somewhere and don't tell them, because that would be bad. And to be fair to Potato, he's made a few comments like, I don't want to do divisive things more than absolutely necessary. If he steps down, I really don't believe the people who would probably take over would give 2 cents about doing manipulative or even destructive things. No, and well, it's not the adults. The adults, if they don't want it, they're like, uh, what they're doing is they're catching kids. So now Australian parents are keeping the kids at home. They're like, I'll educate them here. So yeah, somebody had sent me a text saying they've tried flip-flopping science, media blasts, manipulation, intimidation and shaming, and none of it's working. He said the only thing they have left is try by force. And yeah, I hope it doesn't come to that, especially with people's kids, because at that point, people don't have anything to lose. You do something to their kids. So, yeah. Are they doing it at Canada as well, Monique? Okay, so it's not. Yeah, that I don't know the fiasco that would create. Um, yeah, I mean, if adults feel the need or have to or they don't want to, that's a private medical decision. Um, oh, they're doing that down here too. They're saying that certain people cause the spread. If you didn't get the pinch, you got the pinch. Um, it's all foolishness. And let me see if I can find that link on my other screen here, because I had it, and lo and behold, it has gone away. Other than Health Alert New Zealand. Oh, yeah, so this one's a really bright one. Let me see if I can get this one up on the screen. So, oh, hey now. Sorry, folks, I'm having a... Yep, so this one came from State Department. As of this morning, Auckland will remain on lights out for at least 7 days. The rest of New Zealand for 3 days because of 2 confirmed COVID cases. I don't know what their thought process here is, but that's kind of frustrating. Needless to say, this is causing a lot of instability everywhere, and we're seeing it in food prices and products. So, guys, pay attention to the local school boards. I know I have a coworker who and he had to get medicated because of someone in his family is at risk, which that's a fair decision on his part. But he's not liking what the school board's been doing in general, so he has embedded himself on the school board. So if you find there it is. Lucky Dame found it. If there's a vacancy for VP, then the pres nominates someone and they're confirmed. Okay. I guess where you'd go down to the Speaker of the House is if both pass away for whatever reason in an attack or something. Well, that would be. Well, yeah. I'm kind of speculating if Potato steps down, who would be the new VP? That's something to think about, guys. As we try to solve the world's problem. I thought this website was called Cyberpoop. I'm going to share something with you. This so we're having all these issues overseas. We're watching a lot of overreach, which we've all been talking about. And then this happened, and apparently, I don't know how many of you knew about this, because I found out about it this earlier today. Colonial Pipeline reports another hack after the big one. The largest fuel pipeline in the United States is sending notification letters to individuals affected. They were able to collect, the hackers were able to collect and exfiltrate documents containing personal information of 5,810 individuals. Affected records contain personal information. So now some of the employees or people affiliated. Serene Acuity, yeah, that's a very interesting point. If we keep pulling threads out of the sweater of society, eventually the sleeves will fall off, and I fear that's something we're going to see here. We're going to keep screwing with each other and other people and back and forth, and all of a sudden, it's going to come crashing down. Thank you, Lucky. This is And by the way, if you haven't, check out her channel, guys. She's a former EMT, and she comes up with some really good topics. So, hey, Q Kitchen made it. I finally gotten here for a lot. I'm glad you made it. Um, yeah. So there's been a whole separate hack for the pipeline. And remember how screwed up it made us when the first one happened, and all our fuel prices spiked, and there were places that didn't have fuel. And now we've had another one. And then I found this one. Oh, okay. She issued a correction. She went to school for EMT. Well, but hey, you probably know a lot more about how to fix broken people than I do. Me, I'm like Israeli or tourniquet, and I'm done. Or Motrin and new socks. I don't know. That's any of you had served the Motrin and new socks. You've probably heard that joke before. So there's actually not only been, yeah, and Q, typically my Tuesday lives I do a little earlier. And then I'll do my technical videos on Thursdays. I'm pondering switching it around, and we kind of have there's a series of us go one after the other throughout the afternoon. So, but last Wednesday afternoon, Trudeau was able to dissolve Parliament in Canada, and we're for. Okay, Monique. So, how do they do that? Because you can't just dissolve Congress down here. So I'm going to have to read up on how they dissolve a Parliament and just start all over again, because I think that's a really weird form of government. There was a bigger hack than the pipeline second hack that none of us knew about, or most of us didn't know about. T-Mobile, massive data breach, cyber scoop. They get the blessing of the Queen's representative. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so Sparky just put up, thank you, Sparky, 3.2 million Scan Eagle drone system comprises 4 air vehicles and Skyhook recovery. Oh, wow. Hey, Pilgrim. Holy hell. So now they can spy on the people they don't like and go and find them and kill them with our drones. How freaking awesome. Holy hell. Oh, God. T-Mobile investigates potentially massive data breach. Let's see. It is T-Mobile is investigating claims by a hacker. They have put sensitive information about more than 100 million customers up for sale. The company says confirmed on Monday that its data was accessed without authorization. The company says it has not determined if the data included personal information. The sales ad for the data asked for roughly $278,781 worth of Bitcoin in exchange for 30 million social security numbers and driver's licenses. Yeah, these guys can't get their act straight. That's frustrating as shit. So yeah, so if you've had a T-Mobile account, keep an eye on your credit. God, I didn't realize it was that big. I found this earlier, and I'm like, I'm going to talk about that. I didn't realize it was that massive. So yeah, if you've ever had a T-Mobile account in the last 5 years, I would highly recommend you go and yeah, continuation of the Gong Show. Oh yeah, cue that. You see something like that, and that'll be a career changer really quick. I can imagine. Yeah, and the home court advantage. To be fair to the Taliban, they were loosely organized, but they were coordinated, and they were very tenacious in what they were doing. They were very focused They wanted to win. It's like watching a football game. One team should get beaten by the other, and the underdog wins because they want it more. And that's basically what we saw here on a battlefield. It really wasn't even a battle. Actually, lucky that when my son was on his first tour, uh, there was a situation that involved kids, and he came back. He wasn't. He was a little bit quirky. It took him about a week to settle down from that. When he got back home, because that he carried some of that stuff straight through. So yeah, that's tough stuff, guys. What can we learn though? I mean, from a lot of this stuff, what can we take away from what we saw in Afghanistan? Um, Imagine the families that kind of saw the Taliban gaining ground and they said, you know what, I'm going to leave now. I'm going to get a visitor's pass to India. Lucky some of the worst suicide case numbers we've seen in Texas and in other states, especially the cities, are the responders, the EMTs, firefighters, and the cops. Yeah, the 22 a day for the military veterans doesn't include a lot of the responders because you see some of this stuff and eventually it'll tweak you out. Um, yeah, Joe, be ready for anything. Have a plan. Be armed. Don't snitch. Yeah, definitely don't snitch. That'll piss people off. But yeah, but our leadership did lose it. If you look at what these folks did, we've been talking about Afghanistan off and on the different channels now for about a month and a half, and probably longer. We're kind of it was on the outskirts, but we saw that. Notice the main media, the public in general, is now being outraged in the last 72 hours. But the Taliban's been gaining ground for weeks, and that's concerning, and that's something for us to learn. Something for us to take away is that sometimes the difference between being caught completely off guard and fighting for toilet paper because of the cootie and yeah, guerrilla warfare does work if done right. Yes, um, the redcoats found that out with their Revolutionary War soldiers who started using the techniques they learned from the French Indian War not 10 years before, which is kind of interesting if you think about it. Having the foresight to see things that may possibly evolve a few weeks or a few months in advance could be the difference between you being mentally and physically ready and being caught off guard. The people you see crowding the airport, grabbing onto airplanes, are the equivalent of the people fighting for toilet paper during the Cootie. It's the equivalent. Oh, no, that's not good. Well, Serene, yeah, the military did their job, but if they're constrained from accomplishing the mission because of politics, they're not going to succeed. A war and politics can be very different things. Um, yeah, and Sparky's on point. Get to know the people around you. If you know other people of like mind in your community, get to know them. Maybe have a loosely organized mag of some type, which I do. And I have actually one in Houston and one here that I still keep in touch with. So, if I'm in that town, I'll be like, hey, hey, Kim. Uh, but notice these folks are the equivalent of the TP fighters. They're reacting to something that happened 72 hours ago, or 96 or whatever it is. Whereas anyone who's been paying attention saw that 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. The same thing with the Cootie. We were all talking about it December, January, some of us even sooner when it first started evolving. Everyone else freaked out in April. We had a 3-month lead time. That can be Yeah, use the Bushmaster. That can be that's a lesson for us, everybody, is just because we look at things and they may not materialize as a threat doesn't mean you shouldn't be looking for the potential threats in the horizon, because if it materializes, it's not going to catch you flat-footed. You're not going to be sitting there going, what the hell happened? And we witnessed that in Afghanistan. We witnessed it with these people rushing. The Marines actually had to shoot folks. Oh, and he did get the really, he got the poke in December. I have a theory. The Israelis actually published it, and I couldn't find the article after I read it. Um, they reported that the the pinch from the old science that requires one pinch has actually been relatively effective, like the flu shot, and the double pinch is not very effective at all as this thing evolves. It's not doing what it's supposed to. So yeah, and Joe, it's hard because there's a lot going on, so people are talking about a lot of different things. There's nothing wrong with it. Don't make yourself crazy as a general rule, but seeing that stuff out there, because you'll see it evolve. This Taliban thing evolved. It didn't just poof, they took over Kabul. No, they've been systemically inching their way across the country, and we were all BSing about it a month and a half ago. But now the public in that country, and granted, they don't have the connectivity we do in the Western world. Still, uh, even in our when the foreign contaminant, hey Tennessee Tactical, how are you? Yeah, try to be ahead of the curve. And sometimes you may only see the threat pop up 2 weeks ahead, but that puts you 2 weeks ahead of everyone else. um, when the Cootie showed up, I had very few things. And remember, I had just relocated, so I had to clear out a lot and started rebuilding almost from zero, and was trying to adapt to a completely different environment. Um, yes, Monique, you saw that on Twitter where they put those little L-shaped brackets so they could open it and give you food. And they had soldiers in mop gear, hazmat gear, if you will, dragging people out of their apartments by force and like shoving them downstairs. Um, yeah, and Joe, yeah, well, you start rebuilding, especially in a new environment that's not water rich like the coast was, and I had to rethink a lot of stuff, which was a good exercise. But you see, we were talking about the Cootie back in January, February, March for sure. The public saw it in April. When did the TP run out? April. When the announcements went out, everyone flipped out. Hey, Catskill. So yeah, please drive safe. Don't get in a wreck. So important stuff to note, gang. Uh, Pay attention to those possible threats, and you may have to rank them. Yeah, and somebody I saw it go by. I don't know who put it. Was yeah, they lucky. You're absolutely right. They were really clean impressed. Now maybe the Taliban told him to do it. The leadership, like we got to impress that we're legitimate, because the previous Taliban government was not. But yeah, yeah. When you start seeing things like soldiers in another country welding doors, when China builds an 8,000 bed hospital in 3 weeks. The illness formally was not acknowledged in the US as far as having been here, even though we all now know it probably was. That should have been an alert. It was on the news. Oh, China's building this big fancy hospital. Why? What scared the People's Republic so badly that they had to put their army on the streets in hazmat gear? Yeah, the formal announcements on national news. Yeah. Uh, and you would think with just natural things, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, earthquakes that happen every year anyway, people would have 2 weeks. Um, That's what I've advised a lot of the newbies that are starting this preparedness thing is, don't freak out. Don't look at what we have and go, oh my God, no. Get that stupid Tupperware for $8 at Walmart or wherever the hell you get it, and put 2 toilet paper rolls, toiletries, blah, 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 2 weeks of stuff. That's box one. Put it aside and then go forward. Well, and Joe, everything I watch on the media, I take with a grain of thought, a grain of salt. Think critically and go, I think they're sensationalizing. I think he's missing context. Even when my kids were in junior high and high school, I used to tell them, you see an article and you're going to write paper about it, if you're at Fox, go to CNN, go to ABC, go to CBS, see what everyone says about it, if they even report it. And then you make a decision based on the information. I think a lot of people, yeah. Really? See, that's funny because I wound up in a convention in Dallas, February of the year the Cootie showed up in 2020. And I came back sick weird. They tested me for flu, strep, cold. I don't know. They poked me, took blood, and they're like, we don't know what it is. Undetermined respiratory illness. 2 weeks, I had a weird cough, but no fever. So, yeah, who the hell knows? Yeah, just assess the threats, think critically, and then if you have to, if it gives you peace of mind, rank them and say, okay, well, alien invasion would be number 10, because we're not expecting UFOs, but terror attack might be number 2. Rank them if it gives you some clarity, and then you can prepare based on what you think the intel is telling you. So, in Tennessee, I remember my dad used to do the same thing. He would get the Daily News. I grew up in New York City. Get the Daily News, and then he'd watch the 2 channels, and then he'd curse at somebody because that's apparently a thing he did in the evening, and because they didn't know what they were talking about. But then he had his intel in his head. Well, Joe, honestly, I think a lot of them, if they're not lying, they don't know. They're just regurgitating what they've been given. So you had to bring up the damn Martians to the gunshot. No, you know what? I'm pondering going to get my FFL and opening a gun shop here. I bet I'd make a killing. But yeah, guys, look, take a lesson from what we saw here. We saw it during the Cootie. We're seeing it here. The people who wait until things are in their face are the ones who you see in the streets freaking out, getting killed on airplanes or punching each other for TP. The difference between being stuck in that mess and being at home watching the other people could very easily be a week, 2 weeks, a month. So, yeah, it is. Gun shops do rock. They're like they are like Disneyland for big kids. ARs are like Lego sets for adults. I mean, and actually, my wife, she took her SIG and Louis Vuitton the SIG. I'll post a picture of it later on. It's hysterical. Actually shoots really nicely too, so I really have nothing to say. But yeah, guys, the difference between you being stuck in the crowd and fears a response, encourages the decision. Yeah, absolutely, Monique. That difference could be a couple of weeks. So just watch what's on the horizon. Don't panic. Somebody put it there. Don't panic, but be ready to react. Most of the preps are going to be the common preps, the food, the meds. If you have scripts, get your scripts in a 90-day as opposed to a month. Yeah, Mama Bear's spot on. Do your homework. Check different sources, make your own assessment, and then kind of roll from there. That way, you can kind of you can help prep yourself, or more importantly, you can find holes in your preps. Like during the freeze, I was expecting to lose power in Texas. I didn't because I'm I'm on the same part of the grid as the airport, and they fought real hard to keep that up. But I had backup cooking available in a propane, the little green tank propane. I had little tanks, but I went to get a few more and everything was gone. So then that got me thinking, I'm going to get a butane stove as well. And then I started thinking butane heater. Um, so again, I saw a little hole. It wasn't technically a hole. I had a solution. And I always could just go outside and use firewood in the grill out back, but I had a solution and I had a third solution, but I saw an opportunity to have a fourth one. So look at those threats and assess, well, what did I miss last time, or how can I be better prepared for that? It's like being able to cook macaroni 4 different ways. If I could lose gas, what are my options? Fire? Do I use, tea lights, whatever? So not just for prepping, but for finding the gaps. And closing those gaps is an ongoing thing. It's an evolutionary thing. You'll never close them all. The goal is to be more closed out than we were out 3 days. No, I wasn't, but the guys across the road from me, like on the other subdivision, they were out for 2 days, and the people across the highway in the middle of the city were out for a week. They lost power from the beginning. So have those options and look at the threats. And if you need to, like I said, from a business standpoint, we were negotiating a contract. You'll look at your worst case, best case, middle case, and then the expected case. So you have 4 cases. You could do the same. Biggest threat, least likely threat, and then put the others in between and say, okay, what gaps do I have for the biggest one? And then go to the next one. And you probably find that there's a lot of commonality. And then you just keep working your way down. So do some homework, hard copies of everything. Yeah, I preach the bug out books. Have a bug out book. Have it ready. Hard copies in there, a USB. Actually, I got to update my little USB thing. I got it here sitting on the desk staring at me. But yeah, guys, you don't want to be like the Afghan refugees who are hitting the airport right now, trying to evade the Taliban to get to the airport, assuming they make it. A lot of them, I'm sure, are not. We've seen some of them get beat up. Yeah, and Joe, being prepared, those gaps include skills. If you don't have a skill set or a knowledge set, now's a great time to fill that gap. When you assess a threat, if you realize, wow, Ray, I have a gun, but I don't know how to reload while walking backwards, you may want to practice with an empty firearm, of course, in your house, walking backwards through your own furniture while you reload a mag and trip on your corgi or something like that, because I've never tripped on my dog. Having those skill sets, yeah, lucky. Vitamin stock is starting to go down. Yeah, so it's very subtle. So yeah, get those things now and find those little gaps and see. And Joe, yeah, well, they had 20 years, but they may have been drinking the Kool-Aid without really looking to see what was in the cup. And all of a sudden they realized there were bugs at the bottom of the cup, and now they're screwed. So again, they don't have the connectivity we do. So we have even less excuse. We should keep an eye on the threats, and then assess them and see, do I need to fill a gap for this? And just do the best you can. And that's why we collaborate. I mean, I watch a lot of the people who are in the chat right now are people I watch there, and I comment in their chats if I can get out of work, and vice versa. We're always collaborating. So don't hesitate to reach out to someone you see in the chat that may know something you need to understand better. Almost all of us have an email posted, or you can comment on one of their videos. There are a lot of good content makers right here in this chat. So if you haven't, go check them all out. You may have to scroll up and down, but don't hesitate. Find different sources. All of us have a slightly different take on how we approach things. And at the end of the day, you want to be sure you're not the TP people. You're not the people holding on to an airplane. You're the guy at home or the girl at home watching the people fight over toilet paper. So, well, gang, we're right over the hour mark, and I actually will have to bug out because my work phone rang about 10 minutes ago, and I probably need to call that person back. So they always wait till right at the end of the day to call me. I'm not John Wick. Yes, and Joe Morgan, by the way, Joe is the master of one-liners and weird humor. So watch him because he comes out with stuff that I'm cackling at stuff he's put on the chats as it goes by. Even though I'm not presenting, I'm kind of watching with him. So, but he has a good point. Sparky, thanks for coming in. Thank you, everybody. Guys, definitely check out the other content creators. You may have to go up and down the chat later. Be safe out there and pay attention. You know, like I said, that 1-2 week lead time might be the difference between you being stuck in a riot and you being at home safe or somewhere else safe. Be good, be safe, stay blessed, stay righteous, and I will see you guys later on this week. Take care.